Some betrayals do not end when a man dies. Some betrayals follow him into the dark. And when that man wakes up before the end of the world, the people who killed him should pray he has forgotten their names. In my first life, I died outside the shelter I built with my own hands. The sky was black. Grey ash snow buried the city. Every breath felt like swallowing broken glass. People called it the Black Frost. At first, the snow looked beautiful. Then a woman touched it. Her fingers turned blue, then clear. Then they shattered like thin ice. By the 10th day, people killed each other for firewood. By the 15th day, I crawled toward my shelter, 3 floors underground. Reinforced walls, heating cores, water tanks, medical storage, enough food to survive for years. I built it for myself and for Elira. For 6 years, I trusted her smile. For 6 years, I prepared for an apocalypse everyone mocked. Elira called me paranoid, Soren called me insane. But when the Black Frost came, they ran into my shelter first, and I was left outside. I reached the steel door with both hands, bleeding. "Elira," I whispered, "open the door." The viewing window slid open. Warm golden light touched my frozen face. Inside, Elira stood wrapped in a white thermal blanket. Behind her, Soren sat at my table, eating my food, drinking my tea, wearing my coat. Elira looked down at me with the same gentle eyes I had once mistaken for love. Then she said, "A man who builds heaven but cannot protect it does not deserve to enter." Soren raised my cup toward me. "Thank you for the shelter, brother." Then Elira closed the window. The frost reached my chest. The last thing I saw was my reflection in the steel door. A fool, a builder, a dead man. When I opened my eyes again, I was staring at a cracked apartment ceiling. A rusty fan turned above me, slow normal, alive. Then I saw the calendar, April 2nd. 40 days before the Black Frost, 40 days before Elira and Soren left me outside to die. For a long moment, I could only stare. Then I laughed like a man who had crawled out of his own grave and found a knife waiting beside it. I had returned, and I remembered everything. The omens would come fast. Blue flames, frozen ocean. Then, on the 40th day, the sky would turn black. The ash snow would fall, and civilization would break. I looked down at my left wrist. A black mark appeared beneath my skin. It looked like a small key. Then a cold voice whispered, "Gravecell awakened, dart stored space unlocked. Preservation rule active. Living beings cannot be stored. Thermal decay suspended." In my first life, this ability awakened too late. By then I had almost nothing left to store. A few cans, a broken heater, 2 knives, and the stupid belief that love would save me. This time, love was not part of the plan. I picked up a glass and focused. The glass vanished. I felt it appear somewhere deep inside me. A vast, silent space. Cold, impure waiting. When I summoned it back, it returned untouched. I smiled. 40 days, a storage ability that stopped time, and memories no one else had. This was not a miracle. This was a receipt, and the world owed me payment. First, I removed Elira from every account. Then I cancelled the wedding, sold my apartment, borrowed from every lender I could find, and created a fake company called Winter Glass Media Purpose, filming an extreme survival documentary. People believed anything if the lie sounded expensive. That night, I rented Hollowmere Estate. In my first life, Hollowmere survived the first year. Before the apocalypse, it was a failed luxury resort beside an underground hot spring, thick stone walls, private generators, a huge wine cellar, a geothermal chamber beneath the mountain. After the black frost, heat would be worth more than gold. By midnight, Hollowmere was mine. In 40 days, contracts would become paper ghosts. The next morning, I walked into Northgate Logistics. In my first life, its supplies burned. This time, waste would be a sin. I raised my wrist in the warehouse. The black key opened like a wound, made of shadow, food, water, medicine, batteries, heaters, blankets, fuel, and ration crates vanished. By the time my supervisor Darwin rushed in, 3 aisles were empty. "What did you do?" he shouted. "Inventory adjustment." "Are you insane?" "No," I said. "Not anymore." I walked out with millions in supplies hidden inside my wrist. Outside, Elira called. In my first life, that name meant home. Now it meant evidence. "Riven," she snapped. "Why did you remove my access?" Riven Vale. That was my name, the name I would teach the world to fear, because it was my money. "We are getting married. Your money is our money." "Then where is your money?" Silence. Then her voice softened. "Soren said you seemed unstable." I looked across the street. People were buying coffee. Children dragged school bags. Normal life. Soft life. Life with no idea it had 40 days left. "I'm not dreaming anymore," I said. "Good. Then apologize and restore my access." "No." Then I blocked her. By the 5th day, trucks climbed the mountain road to Hollowmere. No one asked why a dead resort needed armored shutters, hydroponics, heaters, medical scanners, and enough food for a private army. Money made curiosity polite. Cash killed it completely. I sealed the windows, reinforced the gates, installed cameras, and turned the resort into a fortress. But the private north wing belonged only to me. No one would lock me out of my own heaven again. On the 9th day, every flame in the city turned blue. Scientists called it harmless. On the 21st day, the ocean froze. Markets emptied, batteries disappeared, heaters sold out. Soren sent one message: "Open the gate when we arrive. Don't make this ugly." I saved it. By the 39th day, Hollowmere was ready. The gravecell held food, medicine, fuel, tools, weapons, blankets, and luxury meals, because comfort was morale. At noon on the 40th day, the sky closed. There was no thunder, no explosion, no warning. 1 second, the sun existed. The next, a black curtain covered the heavens. Then the ash snow began to fall. People smiled and reached out. Then the screaming started. A woman touched the grey snow. Her fingers froze into glass. She screamed once, before her arm shattered at the wrist. Emergency alerts flooded every screen. Stay indoors. Avoid exposure. Remain calm. I sat in Holomir's control room with hot stew. I lifted my spoon. Remain calm, I said. Then I ate. By nightfall, the cold was deadly. By the second day, the power grid failed. By the fifth day, people killed for blankets. On the sixth day, Illyra came to Holomir with Soren and 4 others. No proper coats, no real supplies, no shame. Illyra looked into the camera. Her lips were blue. "Riven," she said, "open the gate." Soren stepped forward. "Brother, enough drama. We know you have space." Brother. He always used that word when he wanted something. I pressed the speaker. "There are supply crates beside the lower shed. Move them into storage," they argued. Then cold defeated pride. For hours, they carried crates through the yard. When the last crate was inside, I opened the first gate, not the second. Illyra staggered into the entry chamber. Warm air touched her face. For a moment, hope made her beautiful. Then she saw me behind reinforced glass. "Riven," she whispered. "Please." I was scared. Soren slammed his fist against the glass. "Open this door." I looked at him. He had worn my coat while I died. Why should I? Illyra pressed her hands together. "Because you love me." I tilted my head. Loved, a strange word, so small after death. "No," I said. "I loved the version of you I invented." Her face cracked. Soren leaned toward the glass. "If you don't open this door, people will tear this place apart." I smiled. "Then run before they arrive." Illyra whispered, "You're cruel." I stepped closer. Cruel was tea on my table while I froze outside. Her eyes widened. Soren went still. They had never told me that, for the first time, they looked afraid for the right reason. I opened a hatch and dropped 2 blankets, 2 ration bars, and 1 map. "The nearest shelter is 12 kilometers east." Illyra stared at me. "That's all." "No," I said. "I also gave you advice. Walk before the snow gets hungry." Then I closed the shutters. On the 8th day, the snow got hungry. The dead began to move. The black frost preserved fear. Their skin turned translucent. Their eyes glowed pale blue. And wherever they walked, warmth died. The first frost shade reached Holomir before dawn. It pressed its face to the gate. "Warm," it whispered. I killed it with a heated blade and found a pale crystal in its chest. A frost core. Cores could strengthen the body. The problem was, I did not know how to refine them. Not yet. On the 9th day, the answer collapsed outside my gate. A woman in a torn medical coat dragged herself through the snow. 3 frost shades followed her. I almost left her, then she shouted, "Your east boiler is cycling too fast. Let me in, or it ruptures by tomorrow." Interesting. I opened the gate. The shades followed. I released a stored concrete barrier and crushed 2. The third lunged. I drove the heated blade through its skull. "Name," I said. "Dr. Maren Sol." I knew that name. In my first life, Maren Sol became the frost surgeon. Maren repaired the boiler and taught me how to refine frost cores. When I drank the first refined core, my blood turned into needles. After 20 minutes, the cold inside me obeyed. Ash snow could sting my skin now, but it could not claim me. Marin watched me stand beneath the grey storm. Congratulations, you are slightly less human. Good, it is a goal. Soon, Hollowmere became more than revenge. I accepted useful survivors, engineers, farmers' nurses, mechanics, and 4 children because Marin threatened to stab me if I refused them. Rules were carved into the main hall. Work earns warmth, theft earns exile, violence earns judgment. Break those rules, and the mountain keeps your bones. For the first time, Hollowmere had laughter. Then the alarm screamed. Not from the gates, from below. A pale hand rose from the hot spring water. A face followed, human-shaped, eyeless, smiling. The speakers crackled with Illyra's voice. Riven, open the door. Marin's face went pale. What is that? I knew. Survivors called it the choir under ice, a monster that stole voices from the dying and sang people into opening doors. This time it had come early. Because I had changed too much. Because the future had noticed me, Marin and I descended into the geothermal chamber. Steam rolled through the tunnel. At the center, the pool boiled black. The choir rose from the water. Frozen corpses fused together by black ice. Their mouths hummed in perfect harmony. Then one face surfaced near the center. Illyra, not the real Illyra, a stolen version. Beautiful, gentle, cruel. Riven, it whispered. You built heaven again. The choir's voices layered together. Let us in. I opened the grave cell and released stored salt into the pool. The choir screamed. Black water erupted. Marin fired. I charged with the heated blade. Then the choir sang. Not a sound, a memory. I saw the shelter door again. Illyra holding tea, Soren smiling. I heard myself beg. For 1 second I was outside, weak, alone. Lock it out. The choir leaned close with Illyra's stolen face. A man who builds heaven but cannot protect it does not deserve to enter. The old me had died hearing those words. I smiled. You should have chosen a memory that still owned me. I opened the grave cell behind the choir and released everything I had prepared. Salt, steel chains, thermal charges, liquid nitrogen. The chamber became chaos. Marin threw me a chain. I wrapped it around the spine. Now, she shouted. I triggered the charges. White fire filled the pool. I drove the heated blade through its center face. The monster cracked. Inside its chest pulsed a black crystal. Marin shouted, Do not touch that raw. I know. I grabbed it anyway. Pain exploded through my mind. Voices flooded me. Illyra, Soren, Darvan, myself. Open the door. Open the door. Open the door. I crushed the crystal against the heated blade. The voices cut off. The choir collapsed into dead water. The next morning, Hollowmere woke to warm lights. Marin found me watching from the balcony. You saved everyone. I saved the shelter. Same thing now. I did not answer, because I was beginning to understand the trap In my first life, I built heaven for the wrong people. In this life, I built it for myself. But somehow, living people had entered anyway. That made them weaknesses. It also made them mine. That evening, two people stumbled up the mountain road, Illyra and Soren. Their pride was gone. Illyra fell to her knees in the entry chamber. Riven, please. We were wrong. I stood behind the glass, exactly where they had once stood behind mine. For years, I had imagined this moment. I thought revenge would feel like fire. But it felt like winter, clean, silent. Hint P after it passed. Illyra whispered, "What are you going to do to us?" I pointed toward the labor barracks. "You will work." Soren looked up. "That's it?" "No," I said. "That is mercy, and you will hate it, because mercy means you owe the man you murdered." I turned away. Put them on water duty. Weeks passed beneath the black sky. Hollowmere grew. Food never rotted. Medicine never expired. Fuel never degraded. Each monster core strengthened me further. But power had a cost. At night, I heard whispers like my old self, still begging at the door. On the 53rd day after the Black Frost, every alarm in Hollowmere screamed. The monitors showed the sky. The black clouds began to move. For the first time since the apocalypse began, a moon appeared. But not the old moon. This one was enormous close, cracked down the center like an egg, and something looked out from inside it. Every speaker whispered at once. A new voice, ancient, amused grave cell bearer. Marin slowly turned toward me. "Tell me that's from your first timeline." I stared at it. In my first life, I died before this happened. I had no memory for this, no warning, no plan. The voice whispered again. "You stole warmth from my winter." The black key on my wrist burned. Then the moon thing laughed. "Build your heaven higher, little king." Across the valley, every frozen corpse turned toward Hollowmere. Thousands of pale eyes opened. I looked at the horde, at the broken moon, at the shelter behind me. The old Riven would have begged for an open door. But that man had died. I lifted my blade. The grave cell opened behind me. Inside waited steel, fire, food, weapons, everything I had taken from a dying world. In my first life, they locked me outside heaven. In this life, heaven belonged to me. And if the moon itself wanted to take it, then the moon would learn what every betrayer learned too late. I do not open my door for monsters. I make monsters kneel outside it.